That's exactly what going on this podcast felt like. I've done debate for 9 years, so I know things could get heated. That wasn't debate, that was assault. I felt like I was sexually assaulted.
This might actually be the most unhinged TikTok meltdown I've ever seen, and that's saying something. We're going to break down a hugely viral feminist meltdown from an influencer after a podcast debate, and so much more on today's episode of the Brad versus Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, our media, and our politics, all from an independent perspective. First, we're going to talk about a moment that's going mega viral and a kind of saga, kind of a fallout from something called the Whatever Podcast, which is a dating and gender podcast hosted by someone named Brian Atlas. It's kind of associated with the like red pill movement, so kind of like a pro men, some would say anti women. I'm not normally a huge fan of this podcast because I think the conversations that take place on it sometimes can be interesting, but are often pretty vapid. They often bring on professional debater men to go against random Instagram models or women off the street, and it doesn't really feel like a fair fight or super interesting or substantive. And then the whole thing is supposed to be like railing against like modern women or whatever, yet it's basically used as a platform for these women to promote their OnlyFans. So I'm not a huge fan of the podcast, but I certainly don't think that appearing on it constitutes rape or sexual assault. Yet that is actually the claim that one feminist guest, a TikTok influencer who went on the podcast, is now making. And guys, this woman's name is Kylie Brewer. She is a self-described queer leftist feminist who teaches anti-racism and has over 100,000 followers on TikTok. Let's look at her first video on TikTok complaining about this situation.
Hi, my name is Kylie, and I've been harassed by men so severely online that I'm thinking about giving up. Misogyny has always been really bad as a feminist content creator, but especially because I talk about intersectionality, which means I'm often talking about the systems that uphold white supremacy and racism in the US, which pisses off a number of uber racist white supremacists. About 6 weeks ago, I was misled by some men, and they ended up having me on a podcast that turned out to be red pill. I don't want to go into the details of it because it was honestly like the most traumatic experience of my life and really horrible, and I am scared of these people, so I would prefer to not go into more detail. But I then became a meme known as Crash Out Kylie, which here's a photo, but they sent their hundreds of followers onto me to leave hate comments and spam report my account until it was removed on Instagram. For child, they do the same thing so that my content has been censored, is not appearing on people's For You pages. I've become a target for them, for incels and red pill people. So if you see this, if you could just let me know, because I'm like really close to giving up and I've been doing this for 2 years. This has been my dream, and it's just like...
So everything about this is kind of ridiculous and absurd if you know a little bit of the context. First of all, she's complaining about being censored and my videos aren't being shown on the For You page. This video has 1.1 million views. I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what happened with her Instagram account. I did look and see that it's still suspended. And if that, whatever reason it's suspended is from like trolling and spam and she didn't actually do anything wrong, then of course I don't support that. But I don't know exactly what happened there. I do know the hosts and the other guests, definitely did not tell people to get her banned. At least I've seen no evidence of that. And they're not necessarily responsible for what random viewers decide to do afterwards. Also, like side note, I find it hilarious that she says, oh, just white supremacists don't like my content because I teach anti-racism or whatever. Actually, she posts like ridiculous, absurd race baiting content that lots of people object to who aren't racists or white supremacists because it's absurd and condescending and probably ignites racial tension where none actually exists. Here's a little sample of that.
Hi, this is just a reminder that hustle culture is white supremacy. Prior to colonization, there was no structured idea of time in the sense that we have.
I also find it funny that she objects to being depicted as Crash Out Kylie, but yet chose to upload multiple Crash Out videos to TikTok. And on a more serious note, it is ironic to me that a feminist content creator would so deceptively portray herself as a victim and as lacking agency when that is not in fact the case. So she has produced no evidence that she was misled about the nature of the podcast. And if she only found out that the Whatever podcast is a red pill podcast once appearing on it, then that is her fault. All their episodes, all their debates are publicly available. Many of them have millions of views. And if you did not do the basic diligence to look up what media program you were appearing on, see what it's like, the tone and tenor of her appearance wasn't really that different from any other segment I've seen on there. It is hostile, it is rude, it can be crude, but it's what she signed up for, and it's a debate, a political debate. Here's an actual clip from the show to give you a sense of what it was like when she actually appeared, that she is now so traumatized by. By the way, if that's the most traumatic experience you've ever had in your life, that tells me you have had a very sheltered life, for which you should be grateful. Let's look at an actual clip from the show now.
Are you aware that men only got any rights to vote about a decade, roughly, before women?
That is not true. Men have been making... The founding fathers were all men, so I have no idea what you're talking
Well, what
about.
does that have to do with the right to vote?
The right to vote was historically withheld from men of color. It was a white...
It was also withheld from
Listen to
the
me.
general population.
Do not cut me off. Do not cut me off. I am in the middle of speaking.
I don't care if you're in the middle of speaking. You're in the middle of a debate.
The right to vote
You don't have your TikTok mute button, sweetheart?
I will not be speaking anymore until you have a conversation with him.
Well, look, if we can, for both people, if we can allow each other to finish, even if you want to jump in, just let the other person finish speaking. If somebody's going on a monologue and they're filibustering, I'll try to get them to wrap up, but just if they're making a point, just try to let them finish.
No, I did not go to school for 4 years and build a platform to be talked to like this. So I will be walking away from the microphone right now, and I would encourage you to get your guest under control. I'm going to take 2 minutes so you can ask him questions if you'd like, and I will be right back.
Because you run the show?
I just won't be back. And
I don't give a shit. What do I care? I'm here to have a debate, not listen to your whining. Do you want to have a debate or not?
All right, I'm not going to be talked to like this.
Well,
so
do you want to just take a little 2-minute breather? You want to take a 2-minute breather?
This is feminism? You're the strong woman? You're the strong woman?
This was an L for the feminist community. I mean, there's just everything about this is awful. The condescending nature of, I'm an Ivy League educated debater and I won't be spoken to like this. Okay, then you should probably be able to handle a little bit of just rough debate. Like Andrew, I'm not a fan of Andrew Wilson. I think he has very extreme far right political views, and I do think his approach to debate, at least in this clip, is definitely kind of hostile and kind of like there is a rudeness to it, kind of a gotcha vibe to it that I don't love, and it isn't how I would prefer to engage in a debate. But the meltdown from her is proving his point, right? If his point is that like women are sensitive and weak and men are strong, it's like, you didn't have to play so perfectly into the stereotype here, my dear. The feminism girl bossing didn't hit the way that we hoped it would in this clip. And unfortunately, that was kind of indicative of how the event went. The rest of the podcast, she kept like quitting and walking away and then having to be coaxed back to the table. Now, she claims that she only didn't leave because of financial manipulation or something. Let's listen to her TikTok video explaining that aspect of it, how their promise to reimburse her travel expenses was held over her head to trap her there. Let's listen to that.
Hi, my name is Kylie, and this is part 2 of my story of being harassed by incels. It has ruined my mental health so severely that I actually ended up getting Bell's palsy. I will not be naming names specifically because, again, I am scared of these people, but you can do your research. I was misled by these people and told that I would be reimbursed for traveling out to California from Chicago. I was not, and I have yet to receive any money. I am out $1,000 from my appearance on this podcast, and still every day I am harassed by their fans online, telling me that I got owned, when in reality I was disrespected blatantly to my face and made to feel unsafe. These people were talking about harming women. They were drinking alcohol on set and making me feel generally very uncomfortable and unsafe, as well as prolonging my duress by holding money and financial gain over my head, because they kept trying to prolong my stay longer and longer under the conditions in the contract that they wouldn't pay me unless I stayed till the end. On the live stream, people would send in money and be like $10 to put a sock in her mouth. slap the bitch, $20, and a bunch of other things. I was obviously scared that they would take the money and harm me. And at the end, they didn't pay me a single cent.
Okay. So again, I am not buying the melodrama here that you were tricked into appearing on this podcast. It is not their fault you didn't Google it and watch a couple episodes before going on. If you did, you would have known exactly what to expect. You would have known that they do belittle their female guests sometimes in ways that I don't support and don't think are healthy or productive. They do antagonize their female guests, and so I guess sometimes their male guests as well. And it's not like a super friendly or casual chat or super substantive either. That said, you should have known that. You also should have known that no one gets assaulted on they don't punch or hit people. That's not a thing that happens on their show, and you had no real reason to believe that it would. Now, as for the expenses, listen, if I ran the podcast, if I was this Brian guy, I would probably reimburse her just because she did come all the way out there. You did get the views and clicks that you were hoping for. But in his defense, they had an agreement, a written agreement that she would come and complete the podcast and he would reimburse her. And she left early and multiple times disrupted the podcast. She didn't stay till the end. She didn't really hold up her end of the deal. So it's not the craziest thing in the world that you would refuse to reimburse her. I would probably still reimburse if I was him, especially to take away, whatever tiny bit of legitimate grievance she might have to garner sympathy in this fallout. But I don't think he's crazy for not wanting to reimburse her when she didn't hold up her end of the bargain, which again, she should have known what she was signing up for by doing basic due diligence. And it's not his fault if she agreed to do something that she was not emotionally or mentally strong enough to actually fulfill, and yet expects the full benefits of the contract. Ironically, that doesn't seem very feminist to me. The feminist position would be that men and women are equal and that a woman is just as capable of fulfilling her obligations and being held to account to the agreements she signs up to. Instead, she seems to want the best of both worlds, that nobody can hostily debate her the same way they would a man. She can still get her end of the deal without having to fulfill her obligations. Like, ironically, it doesn't seem actually equal at all. But here's the part where things just totally lose the plot, because I'm not without any sympathy for her experiences here. They definitely weren't nice to her. And if she didn't know that's what she was signing up for, if she's not used to this kind of verbal jousting and hostile debate, I wouldn't be fazed by it because I've done it many times. Again, she should have looked into it before agreeing to do it, but I can understand how that would be a very jarring and upsetting experience for someone. Here's where she totally 100% loses me. She claims that men being mean to her on a podcast feels like the same thing as rape, as sexual assault. Seriously, that's what she said. Listen to this.
That's exactly what going on this podcast felt like. It made me feel violated in so many ways, disrespected and used. In addition to them having me fly across the country and front the bill myself with the promise of paying me back, which they didn't, I made them so much money that they asked me to come back 3 times within 24 hours. And when I told them to pay me back, they sent me a threatening, abusive email. Felt not like a human being. I was harassed on the basis of being a woman, told that I was stupid, talked over, talked down to, and I was made to cry 2, 3, 4 times. I went open to the back and just sobbed. I really tried to stay to the end because I wanted to be reimbursed for all the expenses, but I couldn't. I've done debate for 9 years, so I know things could get heated. That wasn't debate, that was assault. I felt like I was sexually assaulted after the next day. I've been assaulted twice, and I woke up feeling that same sense of sadness and violation and emptiness. Yeah.
So this is breathtaking in its insanity. I'll of course say that I have tremendous sympathy and compassion for her, that she was assaulted twice. That's horrible. No one should have to go through it. Far too many women, and some men, but particularly women, do. However, it is absurd and actually deeply insulting to your fellow survivors of abuse to compare being talked over or told you're stupid or having people be unkind to you in a debate to being sexually assaulted. That is totally inaccurate, totally disingenuous and unfair, a wild and baseless accusation to lob at someone, and also really invalidating and downplaying to the actual survivors of SA and what they go through. Like, that is horrible to say that normal, unpleasant social interactions are the same thing as what they went through. No, they are not. And you, of all people, as a feminist and as a survivor, should know better than that. That is laughable. That is frankly despicable rhetoric to use. Totally disingenuous, trying to shut down debate and garner sympathy for yourself on the backs of your fellow survivors while diminishing what they went through to score political points after crumbling, really, in a kind of pathetic manner in a debate. With, she loves to talk about her Ivy League degrees and her TikTok videos and all her years of debate. I have never been less impressed with somebody's ability to debate in my life. And I've seen some rough ones. So I'm not without sympathy for this woman, but she does, in fact, deserve the moniker Crash Out Kylie. And while she may call herself a feminist, her public appearances and rhetoric so far, from what I'm seeing, are the exact opposite of a feminist, strong woman. No, they're a toxic wannabe victim, lying and distorting a story to deprive herself of her own agency and play the victim. But what do you guys think? Are you more sympathetic to her than I am? Do let me know in the comments. Do hit that like button and do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. By the way, guys, remember you can listen to the Brad versus Everyone podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Would love to have you over on the audio side with us and take us with you on the go when you don't have time to look at my beautiful face. Also, remember to check out the merch items. My boyfriend's done a lot of hard work on those. We have some really cool stuff. That's linked in the description. And remember to send in your voicemails, your voice notes for my Voicemail Friday episodes where I react to your woke horror stories, your personal life scenarios, and answer any questions you guys have for me, all on air. The link to send in a voice note is in the description. Up next, we're going to respond to a left-wing YouTuber who mocked and attacked me after my recent CNN appearance that's going very viral, where I clashed with the liberal pundit Anna Navarro, and she dismissed my opinion for being a white man, which I correctly responded was racist. That clip is going super viral, and lots of commentary channels have reacted to it, most of them agreeing with me, most of them right-wing channels, but I do like to hear what critics have to say about me, so I've been checking to see if any significant left of center channels or commentary has been put out about it. I would like to know and see if they have any points. This one guy does not. That's really all there is to say. This guy, his name is Couch Politics. He is a left-wing YouTuber with 50,000 or so subscribers. He made a video about me that was very unpleasant and not very substantive. So let's react to some clips from that.
Guys, let's get right into this segment. We got another gay Republican just humiliating himself as he bootlicks for a party that just thinks he's subhuman and shouldn't even exist. It's always amazing for me to see these kinds of people just straight sellouts for a buck.
So this was interesting to me because I don't think he did very much research about me. I recently re-registered actually as an independent, as not affiliated with any political party. Though my views lean to the right, to the center right for sure, I am not some, even though when I was a registered Republican, I've never been some party loyalist, some MAGA stan. I've always been very critical of Trump. I've always been very critical of the party on different issues. And so to kind of act like I'm some Team Red shill, I just think he did no research before talking about me and made a bunch of assumptions that probably aren't true. Secondly, listen, there is still some homophobia on the right wing, but the idea that most Republicans think gay people are subhuman or shouldn't exist is just totally out of touch with reality and with public polling. 40% or so actually support gay marriage. And even the ones who don't, most of them do not think gay people shouldn't exist. It's just a real distortion of where the Republican Party is actually at. Its many faults aside on issues of gay rights and gay marriage. I mean, President Trump is pretty supportive of gay rights, of gay marriage. He's openly supportive of it. He appointed the highest ranking ever gay cabinet official in Scott Bessent. It's just, I feel like we're living in slightly different realities here, where he acts like any gay person who leans Republican is aligning with a party that wants to put them in a camp or something. That is simply just not true. Not to say there aren't flaws or bigoted parts of the party or anything like that, but just his perception of it is wildly off base. Let's keep watching.
The Democrats have allowed themselves to become the party that stood in almost uniform behind child sex changes across America.
That's just not true.
Listen, Papi, I don't want to hear the word kids or children coming from Republicans when Trump is your daddy. Speaking about kids, seems like your cult leader Trump may have an issue controlling himself around them. What say you, crazy eyes?
Notice how he just didn't address any of my points or any of the substance of my commentary about Democrats supporting experimental, irreversible medical transitions for minors and just started rambling about Trump. Trump is not my poppy and never has been. In fact, I've actually made fun of Republicans who unironically call him daddy. But regardless, it's just like whataboutism. It's totally illogical non-response. It's a non sequitur. And call me crazy eyes if you want, but I'd put my appearance up against yours any day of the week. Let's hear more from our friend here.
Like, this is the thing. Democrats come from a place of empathy and trying to make everyone feel accepted and welcomed. I'd rather start off that base than one of cruelty and bigotry and just truly noxious behavior any day of the week.
Yeah, I just don't buy this idea that, well, Democrats have empathy and Republicans are all just cruel. I actually think there are people on either side of the political spectrum that embody those values. And, well, you could say that's to some extent true. Like, oh, well, Democrats want to help people with their policies. Sure, good intentions don't equal good results, though. That's for sure. And I also think that we have also seen cruelty and vindictiveness from the Democratic side. When you look at the way they tried to cancel and destroy random people's lives over old tweets or out of context hand gestures and the like, it's not like they are always the loving, caring, tolerant ones in practice. So this didn't hit the way that he thought it hit. And regardless, like, again, I'm not some loyal party loyalist Republican. He's shadowboxing a straw man. Let's keep watching.
And he said, yeah, when you offer free stuff. It's such a Republican thing to say, as they literally rip away health insurance from some of the poorest people in this country to give tax breaks to the super rich. So free stuff is bad, but stealing from the most who need it, that's all good. Again, only Republicans and conservatives who are among some of the poorest in this country could clap like seals in agreement for this. And by the way, free stuff, what do you mean? We pay taxes. Isn't that what taxes would be used for? For instance, the free bus rides in New York City that Mamdani wants? Like, these people are...
So there's a lot to unpack there. But first and foremost, well, we pay taxes too. Okay, at the federal level, most taxes are paid by high-income people and by the top half. And they're about the bottom half is of income earners are not net federal taxpayers. So that's really not true. And Democrats are promising tons and tons of new spending and social programs and goodies for everyone. And they say, oh, we're only going to tax the rich. Now, in reality, they couldn't actually fund their programs by just taxing the rich. There's not enough money there. The math doesn't math. So maybe they would end up having to tax everyone. But according to them, they don't plan to tax everyone fairly for it. Everyone pays in. They just want to tax the rich. So then they are promising people free stuff paid for by other people. And the other issue here is him conflating tax cuts that let people keep their own money. He's saying that's a giveaway to them. That's not how I view property and income. And I don't think it's how most Americans do either. I actually think you own your money. And the government letting you keep more of it is not them giving you money unless your base assumption is that all money and property you truly owns with the government, in which case you are a communist. And I am not, in fact, a communist. Let's go through a few more clips of this guy.
I want to respond to you saying that I was hyperbolic when I talked about a reign of terror.
Because that is hyperbolic.
No, it might be hyperbolic for you as a white man.
Oh, okay.
It's certainly not hyperbolic for me as a
racist.
Latino. No, I'm not being racist.
It's incredible to dismiss my opinion for being a white
No,
man.
I'm not
is
dismissing
racist.
your opinion.
These people are just gross. Like, to try to play the victim there and act like what she said was what she was being racist towards you, to act like he's offended by that. Again, but He's a gay Republican. To be offended by that, but be a gay Republican, again, a party that wish you didn't exist, is incredible.
First off, what you're saying isn't true. I'm not a loyalist Republican, and Republicans don't wish for me not to exist, not the vast majority of them. But even if it were true, that doesn't actually make sense. Just because I accept one thing over here, that means it's okay for her to racially abuse me on national television? What? I mean, what she said very explicitly in the clip, they tried to deny it afterwards, but it's on record for everyone to hear, is when I made a claim, like a factual claim, that no, calling Trump's immigration policies a reign of terror is hyperbolic, she responded with, "You're a white man, so that's why you think that. And implicitly, that's why you're wrong." So she dismissed my opinion, not with facts, not with logic, not with arguments, but by citing my race and gender. That is just like textbook racism and sexism, but it's discriminatory. And the idea that I can't call that out because this other thing he imagined also exists doesn't even make sense on its own terms. Like, two wrongs don't make a right. And even if someone is inconsistent, that doesn't actually make the point they're saying wrong. Let's look at one final clip from this fine fellow, Couch Politics.
This is what Republicans always do when it comes to these racism conversations. They play the victim and act like the little snowflakes that they are when the conversation is about to get too tough for their little brains to handle. He really tried to call out racism because she was pointing out a simple fact that maybe as a white man, you may not have the same personal feelings towards it. Again, gay Republican, crazy eyes over here. Your party thinks you should be damned to hell and that you have a severe mental disorder. We on this side don't think that shit about you. You know how we see you? As humans. Not less, not anymore. I truly despise people like this. Such pathetically weak to have to throw your own people under the bus by supporting this party. For what? Just a couple dollars? Because that's what they're used for. That's bigotry shields. We're not bigots. Look at this creepy looking gay guy we have.
He is so obsessed with the gay Republican thing. It's actually comical to me. But yes, I don't really agree that I was being a snowflake or playing the victim, because it's not like I was traumatized by it or anything. I just called it out. Like, she said something racist to me and I was like, hey, that's racist, knock it off. And then we discussed it and I moved on. The idea that I was triggered or melted down or anything like that, I just don't think that's true. I don't think that's an accurate reflection of the clip we watched. They're not used to being called on it when they're racist against white people or sexist against men. They're used to people being afraid of them and nodding along. And I called them on it directly to their face. And she didn't like that. Anna didn't like it. And apparently this couch guy doesn't like it either. And again, the fact, even if I was this caricature of a gay Republican that he's talking about, which is not a remotely accurate reflection of my work, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't make it okay to dismiss my opinion because of my race. Like, oh, it's okay to be racist. What you're saying is it's okay to be racist against gay Republicans because they're wrong about politics and self-hating. That's not even true, but to the extent, even if it was, it wouldn't justify you being racist. That's insane. In what other scenario would you say that someone's personal beliefs or inconsistencies or moral failings justify bigotry and discrimination against them? You wouldn't say that. But you have your partisan blinders on here and it's showing. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button before you go. Remember to check out the merch items and the different options we have available there, linked in the description. Send in your voicemails for our Voicemail Fridays, and we'll talk again real soon.